This is a Q&A with the People's Coach. Here we go. We're going to dive right in. Got a question from Amy Davis, and she said on my YouTube channel, she said, I am a 55-year-old female with type 1 diabetes. I started training in the 80s. She said she still gets after it. She still trains very hard. She says she's on a carnivore diet, so congratulations for that. That's fantastic. But she said she's really struggling with strength and motivation. I can't seem to rid myself of still wanting to be, quote unquote, what I used to be. I'm trying so hard to just let it all go. So number one is, I think it's great that you're in recognition of this. You're in recognition of, like, hey, you know, Amy, you got to kick it up a notch. And I think that's a great recognition. But I would also say that it might be possible that you might be trying to just cram in a little too much. This is all just ideas. You know, I'm not 100% sure of what your routine looks like and stuff like that. But 6 days a week, that's a lot of training. And maybe you would have more motivation if you just went a little bit less. Like maybe you would want to go a little bit more if you just did it a little bit less. I would say that you're probably using a lot of I have to. Now, try to think about this. When you go to share something with somebody else about how you feel, that it would be great for them to explore some nutrition and for them to explore some strength training. Think about the words "you should." I always think that those words are dangerous, because when you tell me, if you say, Mark, you should, well, what if I don't fulfill that? Like that puts a lot on me. So, my point here is that I think that you're saying that to yourself. You're saying, Amy, this is what you should be doing. Why aren't you doing it? You need to go to the gym. You need to be on time. You need to train really hard. You need to do cardio, and you need to do your strength training, your main movements, and you need to do your assistance movements. And anything less than that, and you're not, you know, if you're not following the carnivore diet, then anything less than that is a no-go. It's not the right thing to do. So what I would instead try to do is I would try to start to eliminate the shoulds, the coulds, the woulds, all those different things, and just do what you can. Just be in search of, like, what is pretty simple for you, what is kind of easy. And then when you find things to be easy, when you're like, yep, that was easy, got that done. When you find things to be that way, for me anyway, it builds some momentum on itself. You know, if I get in a 10-minute walk, I'm like, okay, cool, I got that done. And you know, what else can I get done for today? It sounds like you are just maybe trying to force yourself. And I don't think it can be forced. If you need to take a little bit of time off, sometimes that works really well. Sometimes that could also be a pitfall, right? So you have to kind of judge that one on your own. But I would just be very, very cautious with, what's the inner dialogue sounding like? Are you kind of forcing yourself? Are you kind of dragging yourself to the gym? That's where I would look. That's what I think the most important piece of the puzzle is. I also think at the end here, you say, I am trying so hard to just let it go. Trying, I think, is problematic. I think the second that you think about trying something is the second that you mess it up. is the way that I kind of see it. Now, that doesn't mean you don't give things a shot, but I think in your head, when you're thinking about, like, trying something, there's really not a try, there's a do. You gotta do it. And doing it and failing and doing it and failing and doing it and failing isn't necessarily trying, it's doing it and failing. It's doing it and failing. And there's no losses, you know, you're not losing anything. Instead of thinking of a loss, think of it, it's learning. You know, you're learning something new. By seeing if you can ditch this word try, you're saying, I'm just trying to let it go. You're trying to let it go that you can't stop thinking about the way that you used to be. Well, I got news for you, Amy. The way that you used to be is a lie. Because we lie to ourselves about the past. It can get inflated, it can get confusing, it can get to be way different than you really thought it was. And I'm sure that you did well in your powerlifting career. I did well in my powerlifting career, but you know, I think what we think of our former selves is not going to be that accurate. It's not going to be that true. So I would like for you, Amy, to practice this. Don't think that you used to be great and now you're a pile of shit. Just think to yourself that, wow, I used to, when I was young, I had a lot of dedication, my body felt really good, and I was able to move around some really good weights. Well, now I'm 55. Could I have the same level of dedication? Of course you could. You could have a similar level of dedication. Could I be as motivated and as fired up and as excited as I was when I was young? Yeah, of course you would. You're just gonna have to find what's the most interesting part. Because again, I think that somewhere in there, I think you're forcing yourself to do things that you really don't want to do. So I would follow your interest. What are you most interested in? What are the things that really interest you in the gym? Anything else that's not that interesting to you, that you don't really like that much, stop doing it. Don't do it anymore. I'm not talking about things that you don't like to do necessarily, because that's kind of a different thing, right? You might be really interested in eating ice cream, but you're not interested in the end result of that. You know what I mean? So pay attention to that as well. But the main recommendation here is just to see if you could pull back a little bit. Maybe try a 4-day-a-week training program. Get yourself out of the gym a little bit more. Maybe figure out a way, if you're being like super strict on the diet. This is something I left out, and I should have probably started here. Bring up those calories. Eat more food. When I was doing my bodybuilding show a while back, motivation started to really dwindle when my calories came down. I was really good with doing all the cardio and doing everything that I was supposed to do for a while. And then as soon as those calories started to come down, everything was a chore. Getting up off the couch was a little bit of a chore. Even, things I really enjoy, just everything that was going to take some energy was like, kind of out of the question at that point, because I was expending a lot of energy and I wasn't feeding myself enough. So make sure you're feeding yourself enough. And I'm not sure if anybody else has experienced this before, but a lot of times in bodybuilding prep, your sexual desire, your libido goes whoosh, it just goes right out the freaking window. It's completely gone. And that again is because your motivation for that, your inspiration for that is dead at that moment. And the only thing that would bring it back was to bring those calories back up. So see if you can afford to bring your calories back up, or maybe even just on training days you can bring your calories up, or just for like a couple of weeks or a month you can bring the calories back up. I realize you probably don't want to gain body fat, but I think that would be a good way to help resolve this motivation issue. We got another question that came in that is similar, so I will attack this one now. This question comes from Ryan, and he called me Mr. Bell. Thank you so much. What keeps you always moving forward, and what strategies do you employ to ensure you're putting points on the scoreboard? What always keeps me moving forward is to make sure that I'm doing the little things, to make sure that I am intentionally implementing things that are simple. First of all, I think we're trying to implement too many things at one time. That causes analysis paralysis. We start to kind of overthink things, overanalyze things, and then we're just kind of shot. I also think at the moment, I don't think our focus is very good. I think we waste a lot of energy. And if you were to think every day, just say you had 100 points worth of energy every single day, well, you might be wasting about 50 of it on the phone, right? That energy could be used somewhere else. I don't think that you can have motivation without energy. I'd give you an example of it would be, just kind of like, again, talking about food. You're not going to be motivated to want to do anything. Literally anything. You're not going to be motivated to do anything other than eat when you're actually starving, right? Same thing with getting water. The human body is so connected to energy. It's massively important. And we know about negative energy and positive energy. You want to be a positive person as well. The more positive you are, probably the more motivated you are. Really check into your nutrition, check into your diet. So, at the gym, let's say you have 1,000 members. Well, maybe out of those 1,000 members, maybe 100 of them or so are overweight. Most of the time when people are overweight, or almost all the time when people are overweight, they tend to overeat, right? But there's a huge subset of the group that's training. It's probably another 100 people, or it might even be more than that. Actually, I would say probably 50% of the people that go to the gym are way under the amount of calories they should be eating in a day. And they're not feeling very good, they're not feeling very motivated. So you have to really check yourself when it comes to those calories. I'm not a huge proponent, huge fan of counting calories, but it might be something that would be smart for you to look into for a little bit, just to kind of see, where you land on that. If you don't want to count them, you can just add a meal. You could start to go from 3 meals a day to 4 meals a day, maybe bump it up to 5 meals a day, and just see how you're feeling. But the other thing that could be demotivating is just eating crappy food. Eating crappy food, consuming crappy stuff, consuming crappy stuff on Instagram and consuming crappy television. But consuming crappy food will really slow you down. Sugary substances and stuff, your blood sugar is going to be up and down all day. Motivation and inspiration can come from anywhere. It can come from a YouTube video, it can come from music, but you shouldn't need anything external other than maybe some food and some water to keep you motivated. You should kind of be motivated from within, because everything that we need, it comes from within us. It comes from inside of us. And I don't think it's a matter of like digging deep to get motivated and to get fired up to go to the gym. For me, it's always been this. It's always been how people ask all the time, how do you deal with motivation? How do you get amped? How do you, in this question here from Ryan, how do you put up points on the scoreboard every day? And the way that I've been able to do it is I have eliminated motivation from being a factor. It's just not part of it. I go to the gym, I train hard. I also am accepting of the fact that some days I go to the gym and some days when I train, it's not going to be as hard as the other days. I'm not going to be able to challenge myself in the same way. I just might not be interested enough to push myself in that way. So these are all the things that I think that are really important to consider, but the best way to deal with motivation is to chop it out. Strength is never a weakness, weakness is never a strength. Catch y'all later.